Hello and welcome to Beaverdale Books. Thanks so much for joining us for this evening's book talk with Stephen Jones. Before we begin, I have to mention a couple of the many upcoming events that we have. So on Thursday, tomorrow, Sylvia Nemmers is going to be here to share her book, Happy Now, Shattering the Myth of Happily Ever After. Then on Monday, October 27th, we have Anessa Kachazovic. There we go. I did practice. Kachazovic. It's a tough one. And she's here talking about her book, No Skola Today. That's a child's view of the Bosnian War and life as a refugee. And Anessa was actually the first Bosnian American to be elected to state legislature. So we're really excited about hosting her as well. And you can find all the details about our upcoming events on our website, or you can pick up a flyer at the register, or even better, you can sign up for our newsletter. And then we send out bi-monthly information about the upcoming programs. So now on to the program, A Giving Man, the Story of C.Y. Stevens. Through leadership and generosity, former farm boy C.Y. Stevens proved that one person can make a profound difference on a college campus. And this book details his life from Georgia to Iowa to Maryland, where he built a dairy empire. Steve Jones is an Iowa writer who has authored 3 books. He has a bachelor's degree in journalism from Iowa State, those side quotes, and a master's degree in communications from the University of Northern Iowa. He's now writing a book-length history of his family's experiences leading up to and during World War II. And he writes articles for various publications. Steve and his wife Diane live on a Boone County acreage, and they chase 8 grandchildren. Welcome, Steve. And I just realized that we don't have the microphone on you.
Do I need this for the...
Yeah.
Okay.
So you were so busy with other stuff.
Other things.
Okay, so this part goes over your right ear. I'm sure the people on Facebook are enjoying this instruction about a microphone. So just put that right over. Yep, up over your ear. There you go. Turn it on. We're going to do a little test.
Test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Turn it on.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think it's working.
Okay,
Beautiful.
we got it.
Well, thank you, Jan.
Oh, that might be too loud.
Oh.
Is that a little too loud? Try to get the test.
Okay, test 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Here.
Okay. And now step back that way a little bit.
Okay.
And now you're back out of the frame. Okay, well, you'll figure it out.
Thank you for your patience. We had a little technical difficulties.
Well, we can't have technology without technical difficulties.
That's right.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming here. Normally, I like to move around. I'll probably get my hand slapped if I move too much.
Oh, I'll go back and forth.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. It takes good care of me. So I think I've met everybody here, and most of us have an idea of Story County, Ames, Iowa State, and Central Iowa here. So that makes it good. I can speak in terms that maybe you would better understand. But once again, thank you. I want to thank Jan, Maureen, and the good folks at Beaverdale Books for having me here today. They said, "Hey, do you want to present your book?" And I was like, "Sure." But I did a couple other kids' books years ago. Plenty of presentations. We have some teachers here who have seen that particular one quite a few times, so they know what's going on. So this was kind of an interesting project. This was a book that Murray and Valerie Wise of Ames, particularly Murray, wanted to do, and he approached the Iowa State College of Ag, the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, about, hey, let's work on the book. And they agreed, and they brought in, is it, Deb, is it strategic communications?
Yeah, it's marketing communications
Market,
now. But
marketing and communications. And so they were involved, and Murray funded it with this foundation, so we certainly want to thank all of them. And you'll notice the artwork in here is great, and that is because Deb Berger here, wave Deb, she was the graphic artist for this at ISU, and she was just a joy to work for, and it certainly looked good. So, we'll get that out of the way. This was a book that I was hired to do. Murray funnels his part of the proceeds back to Iowa State in different, whatever method he chooses and that sort of thing. And we're so glad that bookstores like Beaverdale Books is going to carry the thing. Okay, so C.Y. Stevens, I'm sure you probably have heard the name of an auditorium on campus, but it's like a lot of things. Who is this? Who was he? Well, Murray Wise had an affinity for him. He was a non-traditional student, struggling at first to get into school, or to meet the rigors of school. And he would go across the street from Larch Hall to this brand new theater, C.Y. Stevens, and he'd sit in there and he would read this plaque about this dairy industry grad who, like we said, built a dairy empire and then put the money into the Iowa State Center. And Murray said, well, if he can do that, I can too. Murray went on to graduate, and under 4 years, he's got his MBA. And this was a guy who never finished high school, so he was good. He was able to get in under some unusual circumstances. So that's where we're at. So let's go to 1954. Iowa State, like every other college in the nation, is struggling. The war is over. You have all these GIs coming back. People are getting some normalcy, going back to school. Enrollments are going crazy. James Hilton comes in there, and he needs classroom work. The state will pay for classrooms. There we go. The state will pay for classrooms, but there are 4 major facility needs at Iowa State, and they've got to figure out how to do it. They need a theater. They need a coliseum, an arena. They need meeting space. They need something else for students. This was 1954. Well, that wasn't going to happen, but it was a pipe dream. Jump to 1961, and all of a sudden they're going to do this, and they get this guy. Nobody ever really heard of him other than a few people, C.Y. Stevens, to head the fundraising campaign for what was then going to be called the Iowa State Center. And like we said, who is C.Y. Stevens? Well, the university spent a little bit of time and effort just explaining to folks who he was. So let's start at the beginning then. So C.Y. was native of Ball Ground, Georgia, which is like 50 miles outside of Atlanta, but 1,000,000 miles away back in that time. He started school at Georgia Tech, wanted to become an electrical engineer. It wasn't working for him. And I think he just didn't fit in, from what I could tell. He just didn't fit into Georgia Tech. His story is he contacted somebody in the USDA and says, I want to study agriculture. What's the best place to go? And this guy told him, well, he was interested in animal husbandry, which would be animal science now. He said, Iowa State. And back then, that was probably true, probably as good as any place. So he took the big move, and he went west, from Georgia to Iowa is going there. He decided to study, it says he studied animal husbandry at the beginning, but in one exam, test, exercise, he graded the best bull as the worst bull. And if you're from Iowa State, you relate to these things. Oh, okay, well, that's not right. He said, I don't know anything about animals. So he went to dairy industry. He was always thinking of he was entrepreneurial. He was always thinking of opportunities, and he thought that could give me some opportunities. And so he went to dairy industry and became really involved on campus. He was a fraternity member. I love the expressions on all these people. This guy doesn't look very happy to be there, but he was very involved. His first went there after his first. I think they were on the quarter system then, and stayed with that group. Became very entrenched with them. He was in the dairy club. These are all dairy people with their white. What would you call those outfits? I guess just dairy outfits with their ties on, bow ties, and whatever. But he made lifelong friends there. You have C.Y. Stevens there, a guy named Jack Tatum, and a guy they call Tiny, who was very tall, Coleman'sberger. And I'll get back to them. They were Iowa natives. They're all in dairy. They became very good friends and later reconnected. So he graduated from Iowa State. He was in ROTC. He was in a group called the Twisters, which was like a male cheerleading outfit or a group. They had matching sweaters and all of this and that. And he always worked. He was meticulous in what he did. He had 4 paperback books that he kept his expenses and income to the penny. And this is all in the archives at Iowa State right now. You can go through it. It's almost comical. 10 cents here, 5 cents here. And he did all that. But he was that kind of a guy. He graduated. He goes 40 miles east to Marshalltown, which is my hometown and your hometown too. So he goes there. He goes to a dairy cooperative, and it's struggling. He turned it around. He did well. This guy was hardworking. From what we can tell, he was very active in community groups there. But the biggest thing Marshalltown did for him, he met a woman named Viva Mae Marsh. Viva Mae, he said, well, I picked her up, which was true. They're walking on Main Street. It's icy. It's wintry. And he notices this petite woman falling up ahead of him. So he rushes, helps her up. They meet. And, beginning of a beautiful relationship type thing. So remember that name, Viva Mae Marsh. Then he goes to Mason City. This photo, see his dog there? His son Jeffrey sent that photo. Did we use this in the book? We did, didn't we?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
It came late and it's all ripped up. We just had to have it. He was, after Iowa State, he said, I became very confident in what I could do. And he has that pose. His son believes that this was, he and the dog took a trip out west in about 1927 in that old car and whatnot. So the dog's, it looks like the dog's resting his paw, but I think he's just raising it. So he's there. He goes to Mason City. He goes to another co-op. He says he turns that around. Lived 8 years in Iowa. So the state meant a lot to him. He moved south. He took a job running like a dairy facility, a plant. It was bought by Pet Milk. Pet Milk saw that the guy had some special skills. They gave him a promotion. He started like a sales manager for a lot of the East Coast and Southern states, was doing really well. But he always wanted to be an entrepreneur. He started little businesses. He'd find the best graduates from Iowa State and bring them out, and they would try to do things. He finally got something on his own. He and a guy named Luther High, H-I-G-H, started, they went into business together. Luther High wanted to start a chain of dry cleaning shops. C.Y. Stevens had a different idea. He wanted to do ice cream and dairy. So before I go too long, C.Y., any guesses on what his name was? Yeah, you're not supposed to know. Well, Deb might remember. Clifford Young Stevens. But it was interesting. He never liked to go by that. He was once asked by a reporter, what does C.Y. stand for? And he wouldn't tell. C.Y. would not tell him. His family called him Steve. Some Iowa State friends called him C.Y, I guess because of C.Y. He was called, a bunch of those names by a certain group. Okay, so they start this dairy business with about, and they build it to 10 stores pretty quickly. And then they just started going through. And this, you got to remember, he started in the depths of the Depression. He borrowed a little bit of money, he had credit, he had a good reputation, the whole bit, and he started doing this. Well, then they started adding more than just ice cream, milk, and then more products. Then they started selling milk, because, they started a processing plant, too. They started selling milk in gallon jugs. And, okay, so why is that important? Nobody else had done it. It all of a sudden created an economy of scale where he could sell milk a lot cheaper. His company also got people in the Washington, D.C. area to totally change how they bought milk. Don't get it delivered at home. Come to my stores. We're open 7 days a week, all day. And, you can just pull up to the door and buy your milk, and it's cheaper, or you can buy bacon and bread and other things, too. And he was a staunch believer in the free market. He fought for lower prices. He got into wars with the Virginia Milk Commission, and it was a organization that set floors on minimum prices of milk. He wanted to sell milk here. They said you had to sell milk up there, and they fought in court. And in the 30s, and then again in the 50s, over how to do this. He ran these ads. These ads would sometimes just have the sale items. Sometimes they were his soapbox, where all he would do is talk about this. He once called in one of these the Virginia Milk Commission, which would be like any other state-appointed commission. He called them the milk dictators, and said something about holding you to the Iron Curtain, that sort of thing, in the 50s. So he had all these, and he wasn't shy to say what he felt like. But those went on and on. He expanded stores in the Southeast with partners. But you think about this in this time period. He added, it was an ice cream shop. He added milk. He added bacon. He added bread. He added other things, probably batteries and this and that. He gave, these stores were little. You could pull right up there. He gave people convenience. He brought the concept of convenience stores to Washington, D.C. And these stores just started growing like crazy. Like we said, he was building a dairy empire. And he had all these, oops, that's not right. He had all these processing facilities that he had a hand in, and then partners. During this time, two things that were important to his life. One is he and Viva May started a family. Before they started a family, they got married Christmas Day, 1931. Nobody came except for maybe one other couple, probably had to by law. She not only changed her last name, she changed her first name too. She went from Viva May Marsh, and from Marshalltown, in fact, she grew up about 6 to 7 blocks from where my grandparents lived at the time, to Mary Ann Stevens. Mary Ann was more to the liking of C.Y., and it was a popular name because of a book and a movie at the time. I mean, I'm not sure of too many other women who have changed their first names because of that. They had 7 children. 5 of them were adopted, and they started a family. They lived in a nice area called Tilden Gardens. It's a residential community near Embassy Row. A lot of big name people there. While they lived there, a senator, first-term senator from Missouri named Harry Truman lived there with his wife, Bess, and his daughter Margaret. But they outgrew that. They bought a little farm outside of Washington, Laurel, Washington, and built it into a working farm. They had lots of animals. They had some livestock. They had this and that. He hired a lot of people. He'd hire Iowa State people to work. His farm manager by the name of Elmer Brown, which is a great farm name, Elmer Brown came and managed it and worked there for years for him. And one of his daughters, Barbara, who I communicated with, said, there's always somebody at this house. And I said, what do you mean? Well, there was just always somebody there. It meant, like during World War II, it was his, they had two teenagers from London. They just got out of the bombing and they came here, probably knew somebody who knew somebody, and ended up there. They would have people from Iowa State looking for jobs. They would come there and live there while they, had internships or whatever. There was somebody they bumped into who was a nursing student with a baby and needed a place to live. They stayed there for a couple of years, but they had something like 11 bedrooms. It was a huge house. There was always somebody there, and it showed kind of how he and his wife were very giving that way. Just opened up and did that. So they started a family. That was the first thing during that time. The second time, well, they bought a theater. The only theater in Olney, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Maryland, was one of these summer stock theaters. They would come in, have the traveling shows of actors and put on performances. But C.Y. had an affinity for the theater, but he developed it into a standout facility. First of all, in about 1940, 41, they got it going. 1942, even with the war starting, they start doing it, and boom, after like 2 presentations, gas rationing was implemented. Nobody had fuel to get out in the country to go see plays. It went dark for a few years. They come back after the war, and he has a manager, and they start building it up. They had Harry Truman once visit. Harry, he came because his daughter, Margaret, who was an actor, performed in London. Winston Churchill went to that one. He thought he better return that favor by when Sarah Churchill was performing at this theater, Harry Truman came. So he got there, and he was, the Secret Service said, he's coming and all this and that, and they got it arranged. But he got there early, and it was really interesting. His daughter Barbara, who was in her upper 80s when we talked for this book, she was talking about being there, and she said, I'll just quote her exactly from the book. My father thought his children would enjoy seeing the president, and off we dressed in our Sunday clothes with a warning to mind our manners and observe quietly. So they were waiting for Harry Truman to come. He was brought in. Truman was seated next to Stevens, and Barbara, his daughter, related years later. I do not remember all the things they talked about, but I clearly remember a lot of laughter and chatting like old friends rather than 2 people who had just met for the first time. And then she went on to say her father was at ease with anybody, from farm workers to the President of the United States. So the theater was a big deal. He eventually donated to Catholic University of America, which was managing it for a long time. Became very successful as a graduate tool a graduate facility for students, grad students, and like that. So they were highly involved in that, and you're starting to see an interest in that. So his business did quite well. I love this photo. It looks like something out of an old Jackie Gleason movie. This was taken in the early 1950s in Atlantic City at a dairy conference. You can see the boardwalk there. The 6 people here are all in the dairy industry. C.Y. Stevens, his wife, Mary Ann, the Tatums, Jack and his wife, Iowa Staters, Tiny Coleman'sberger, Frank was his real name, and his wife. They're all in the dairy industry. What C.Y. did was these people, he basically help them start in business. He had the idea, the expertise, and he probably provided a little bit of capital, and they ran businesses in Tennessee. They ran dairy businesses in Virginia, and they were business partners. You remember, these are the ones that he went to school with, and they stayed in contact. They became not only friends, or not only business associates, but close friends. The Stevenson's son, Jeffrey, told me that there was always couples there, always together. Whenever the family got together to do something, they got there too. So the reason I bring that up, he had a hand in just hundreds of stores throughout southeast the U.S. A couple over here were dear friends of theirs too, part of the Locust Group. But he sold refurbished industrial equipment specializing in dairy equipment. So he sold the big canisters, he sold the big mixers and all this and that. Because C.Y. made a lot of money, but he didn't have to have new. If it worked well and was old and didn't look great, he was fine with it. And that was part of his business plan to become so successful and the like. In fact, he didn't have to anything new. He drove old cars. He eventually worked up to what they said newer Fords. A colleague once, as a gift, gave him a brand new T-Bird convertible. The family loved it. His wife took the kids out for a ride. He looked at it and finally just said, "That's not for me," and gave it to somebody else. He stayed with his Ford. But it didn't have to be very fancy. His son said their furniture in their store, it wasn't designer. He said most of it looked like it came from, like estate sales, and even some of it from garage sales. They weren't pretentious people. I never once in all my research heard anything about any European trips or anything like that. So what I'm getting at is he had the ability to make money, but he wasn't splurging on himself, that's for sure. So the business kept growing, but keeping in line, a lot of them were just little small storefronts where they sold ice cream. Then they started selling other products. As time went on, they had more stores, and they started making better stores. So his entire business was just growing like crazy. This was from a full-page ad about their stores and how they were building new ones and doing this and that. Much like when Casey's went from the little stores to the bigger ones. So let's jump back up to 1961. He is building this dairy empire. He's connected with a bunch of former Iowa Staters. They have stores all over. They have processing facilities and all of this and that. So, his friend from school was Jimmy Hilton, who later became James H. Hilton, president of the university. They were not classmates, but they knew. Red Barron, if you know any history there, he was the alumni director from the 30s until 1968. Red was a fraternity brother of his. And so between the two of them, and particularly in later years, they kept C.Y. quite close to the university. C.Y. sent his daughter to Ames for 1 year. She had wonderful memories of all the, Visha, the Swans, the Zodiac, if you're in the Union, all that. She remembers Eisenhower riding in an open car down Lincoln Way from Boone to an event in Story County. Even watched Gary Thompson and the basketball team play. I didn't ask her if she saw Wilt Chamberlain or not. But she had a wonderful memories of being in central Iowa. And she met her husband here in Iowa because they wanted to be teachers, and they didn't have an education program at that time. C.Y. always credited Iowa State for his success. And part of that, and for that reason, he took on this fundraising job. He traveled the nation on his own dime to raise money from business people on the coasts, farmers in the middle America and everywhere else. And so then it came time for the Iowa State Foundation board members. And these would be like the Bill Fishers of Marshalltown and Debbie Harold Breton of Breton Banks, the heavy hitters in Iowa who were had connections to the university, to say, okay, what is your donation to this Iowa State Center project? Because you've got to show, we've got to be leaders and we've got to show support and all that. So Brenton passes out these little slips of paper. Everybody writes their donation on and passes them back. One of them comes back and it's folded, and that's caught his curiosity. And he opens it up and he kind of starts. He told this to Stephen's sister. He kind of started shaking, and it was like it was burning in his hands, and he dropped it, and it said $1 million from C.Y. Stevens. Well, the whole project was only anticipated to be 7.5. It was, by the end, it was double that, and they finally announced that, and it was one of those things that not only was he raising money, he was the lead donor on that. So the Iowa State Center was getting closer to fruition. They started groundwork on it in 1963. The year before, his $1 million came from giving his stores to ISU, which in turn, a few hours later, gave it to the dairy processing facility. Iowa State got the cash. The dairy processing people got the stores. Everybody was happy. They had raised $4 million by 1963. This photo I love because it's got Hilton, C.Y. Stevens, and Brett there on the steps of Beardshire, which is the administration building with the columns. Not a lot of diversity in that photo, but it just showed these three together. I'd love to know when that was taken, because this whole fundraising effort by Stevens, of course, took a tragic end 1 week to the day after JFK died, when he was in a car wreck. He left his home on Friday morning, and it was raining hard, and he was driving to Annapolis, which wasn't very far away. He was going to help a couple with some issues on trying to adopt a child. And of course, that's him, the giving mode again. He's driving on, he's getting ready to cross a new bridge, and a car coming at him slides head-on collision. He's killed immediately. And it was interesting talking to his son, and we had multiple conversations and emails and all this and that. Twice the son said, if he'd only just forgotten his keys, he would have walked to the car, walked back in, got in, drove off, and could come upon an accident. And he would have gotten out and helped that young man in the car, because that was his kind. But, here it is years later, and the son was still feeling the pain of losing his father. Well, the fundraising campaign went on. It was successful. They started building 1965. Mary Ann and Jeff, the guy I've been talking to, and other family members, part of the groundbreaking ceremony, which was a big deal. I think there was a football game that day, and Iowa State actually won, which was probably unusual at that time. And they started building what was now known as C.Y. Stevens Auditorium. It opened in September of '69 to great fanfare. People were amazed at its architecture, its acoustics, the lighting, and everything. They had the grand opening was the New York Philharmonic that played there for 5 nights. They'd never done that before. They never played they never played 5 nights outside of New York City, but they did there. And the news media from around the country covered it, partly because here's this beautiful auditorium in the middle of the Midwest, and there wasn't much around at the time. Iowa in Des Moines, they had old KR&T Theater, which was closed 3 years after this. It was huge, but it was an old building. Hancher in Iowa City hadn't been built yet. This was new, and they were bringing in all kinds of performers and acts and the whole bit. It was mentioned on not Good Morning America, the NBC show. Today show. The LA Times called getting the Philharmonic there the cultural coup of the year. Everybody else was going on and on about it. But it wasn't the first actual event in there. The first one was, did anybody know they had a concert for students? Deb, you can't answer, but...
I read it, but I forgot.
Yeah. They had a concert with the Cows Hills and the first edition. And, of course, the first edition's star was...
Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers. It was a rainy night, and so a lot of former students remembered that because there were reports of people carrying their girlfriends in to keep their feet out of the deep water and the whole bit and whatnot. But that building did a tremendous amount for the university, Central Iowa, Ames, the whole bit. Warren Madden was the vice president for business and finance, and he was at the university a half a century. And this building won I think it was 2004 when it was named the building of the century in the state of Iowa. And that was by the Iowa chapter of the American Architecture, or Institute of Architecture group. And Warren Madden was quoted, and we love this, he goes, C.Y. Stevens Auditorium really put Iowa State and Central Iowa on the cultural map. The auditorium not only changed the face of this university, it changed the image of this university. Because when this was built, I mean, it had only been a university for 11 years. It was still called MooU. You know, they played Drake, and they'd go beat MooU, and Iowa State would say, we'll beat Drake High back in the day. So it was a big deal. The other thing is, it's between the university and downtown Ames. So if you're from Ames, it's a big deal because it kind of not only bridged geographically, physically, it bridged psychologically too, bringing the two together and that sort of thing. So what C.Y. Stevens did enabled this to be built, which in turn really kind of changed the focus of what was going on at Iowa State. After that, the rest of the center was built. And the rest is history, like that. So C.Y. Stevens, firm believer in education, he cherished theater and music because when he was in college, he would be an usher because he could go to plays for free. He didn't have any money. But he made all this money. He was very good at making money, but he didn't splurge. He didn't do things for himself. He always remained close to ISU in the state of Iowa. He was the person at that time to do something, to build that center and something that the community and the university in Central Iowa needed. So, what can I tell you that? C.Y. was an interesting guy. He went when Pearl Harbor hit, and I love what his son described it. He goes, that was December 7th, 1941. And his son told me this story. He goes, on December 8th, 1941, my dad went to the recruiting office to volunteer to serve his country, Jeffrey Stevens explained. He was the oldest volunteer there at age 39 and probably not in the best shape. Although he never served in the military, he was in ROTC and all that. The Army politely said, sir, the war effort needs you elsewhere, and sent him on his way. But his son was interesting in that he's a retired lawyer, and he was, like a lot of children, he'd make fun of his dad, and then he'd talk about how much he missed him and all that. The older daughter, who was adopted, I think from Iowa, you know, loved her father. She told many good stories about him. Said once that you know, he had some African Americans working on his farm. He caught wind that their school was a one-room school with no plumbing and no electricity. He went and rattled some cages at the school board, school, whatever, and they electrified it and plumbed the school. And he was just that kind of a guy. So, what can I tell you? Any questions? Sir in the red coat.
Was Hilton Coliseum and Fisher and Sheeman all built at the same time? Or?
No, they came later. Hilton opened in '71, I believe. And I actually...
So this was the first one?
This is the first one. So it really kind of kick-started everything else. That, you know, his fundraising made it a go. And then, of course, it spiraled and did that. The others came later. I actually think my dad and I went to the very first public opening at Hilton. It was a basketball scrimmage, but that's a different story. Yes.
Has there been any remodeling or whatever done to C.Y. Stevens since it opened? I mean, you know, aside from just, have they done anything to it?
You know, I haven't been involved in that. I don't know. I'm sure there's been regular maintenance, but you know, that's the million-dollar question right now. How are they going to fund some major improvements that are needed? Right.
We probably need to ask our friend.
And I think that's one of the reasons for Sci-Town is to create some, a revenue stream to do some things. So. Like that. Yes.
What's something that you were surprised at as you were doing the research?
Well, for one thing, so I was hired to do this, and I knew enough to do a little research before I went into the meeting. I didn't know a thing about him. I assumed he had money because unless you've been with the university for years, you're not going to get something named after you unless you're doing it. But I was surprised at really who he was. He didn't fit the mold of some people. He fit the mold of an entrepreneur. You know, always busy, never rests, doesn't do, you know, this, always involved in that. But, I mean, I think that was part of it. The other thing was, you know, this was not necessarily going to be a book. They just wanted almost like a report, something more than what we had. I mean, maybe put a fancy, but we kept finding more and more stuff out at the archives, and then we got a hold of Jeffrey Stevens, you know, the youngest son of C.Y., and he was a treasure chest of information, and we kept, he'd send me something, and I'd say, we got to get that in there. And then he'd send me more. He'd go, this got me thinking, and he'd send me a, you know, email this long, and, we got to use that. You can't leave that out. And it turned into this, and then somebody said, you know, we're really glad it did. A guy with the college, the agriculture college.
So was it always going to be named C.Y. Stevens, or
Yeah.
did that change after he died? Because he died before it.
He died before. Built. Yeah, they had just started groundwork. You know, that's a good question. I don't know. I would assume with that kind of role, you're going to have a big naming opportunity, and I think his affinity for the theater. You know, he owned one. I think that was a natural fit, and it was the first one, and it's, you know.
You're gonna have to do more research and write a sequel.
You'll have to ask Jeffrey Stevens that. He would know, wouldn't he? Your son?
You know, he certainly might.
Yeah.
He certainly might.
How many of the children are still living?
I know at least 3 are the Barbara Stevens, the one who came to Iowa State in the 50s, is in her upper 80s and I think not in good health. You know, she may have passed and we hadn't heard. I think 3, because there were 7 altogether and this sort of thing.
And there's grandkids.
Yes, there are. I talked to a granddaughter too, and she didn't add much to the story, but you know, any little bit adds to the body of the body of knowledge of the project, and you know, she certainly did. But it was an interesting just family, because he grew up in this Georgia farm, but they weren't, you know, it was red, hilly and red clay soil, not good for farming, but they weren't poor. They had a house with like all these bedrooms, and the father kept adding on. C.Y.'s grandfather had put money away to send C.Y.'s father to college. So we're talking the 1860s, except Sherman and the Union troops marched through Georgia, and all of a sudden that money disappeared. But C.Y. was the youngest of 11 children. 8 grew to adulthood, and 7 of them went to college, and 5 of them became teachers. For whatever that's worth, he was one of the outliers by going in the ag. Yes, I think you've reached your limit.
No, I was wondering about the stores that he started out in the East Coast, Washington D.C. and Virginia, and here. So they were called the high stores. Are they still in existence, or did they sell those all to somebody else?
Well,
what happened to them?
My understanding is they've changed hands a lot. Highs are now a true convenience store that sells gas, and you know, when you have gasoline, it totally changes everything. Ice cream, you can be anywhere. You could be hidden in here. Gas, you got to be elsewhere. So that's my understanding. There's
no high stores out there anymore.
I don't believe so. I believe they're just all convenience stores. But you know, in my research, I'd find these comments where people would talk about high stores, and they all had pleasant memories. Like, oh yeah, we would go over here and get ice cream on Sunday nights with grandma type things, and you know, just brought back plenty of memories for these people. But these battles he had with the Virginia Milk Commission, I mean, I believe one of the cases went to the Supreme Court and ruled against him because he kept saying, no, you can't do this, we're going to do it. There was one instance where in Virginia you had to pay more. Well, just send us a check and we'll basically send your milk over to one of our stores and you can pick it up and you can buy it at the Maryland rate. And you know, that caused a flurry with the commission and all this and that. Maryland, later years, somebody tried to establish a milk commission there, and it got shot down in the legislature almost immediately, which tells me C.Y. Stevens had his war chest ready and just had to push the button.
Oops.
That said,
Oh, that's
you
your
can't do
computer.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do that. But fascinating story. The history of it was for Iowa and elsewhere. Just fascinating me. I love talking to Jeffrey Stevens. There was talk of trying to get him to come back to Ames sometime. I don't know if they'll do that. But interesting.
Do you know if the C.Y. Stevens building is still considered the architectural gem of the state, or have other buildings surpassed it?
Well, I can't answer that. I do know, I don't think they've had another building of the century since that time, so I think that's one of those honors that just stays there, whether it falls down or is remodeled or whatever. So I don't think so. But I know nothing about architecture, but apparently it caught the attention of architects. Mike, you're a civil engineer, structural engineer. Tell us.
Certainly one of a kind.
Okay. So.
I don't think there's been any major renovations. My daughter used to have dance competitions there, and you're trying to avoid the water dripping in, so that's the one I got. So they don't do them there anymore.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that have pride in the building still, so something needs to shake up.
Yeah. And I'm no longer employed there. I don't have to speak the party line. I don't know.
Right.
But my understanding is, they're looking for other revenue streams, and Town supposedly is going to generate some money to fix up some of those buildings because the athletic department now runs all that.
They run all of those buildings?
That's why they're doing these concerts for more money too.
Okay.
And a good time for it. So, but no, it was spent a lot of time at the archives, a lot of time interviewing the Stevens family members. The archives at Iowa State, it's a great place. There's lots of materials I've got that we'll probably give to them, and they can decide what they want. But these newspaper ads, they were just these big ads, and one time it was like reading the dictionary. He had so much to say. I mean, he must have really gotten it off his chest. What do we call it? The milk dictators, and just lambasting them. And but he was a true believer in free enterprise. Not gonna let somebody artificially control the prices.
Okay.
All right.
Let's
Thank you.
hear it. And I think you're going to be signing some books.
Well, I'm glad to do it.
Okay.
So,
Thanks so much for coming.
thank you.
I'll get this out of the way. Let you up right there. You can sign.
Say bye.
Okay. Thanks for coming. Oh. There we go. I'm so sorry. I was so involved in that that I totally forgot about the microphone.
You have a pen?
Yes.
You, all right?
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
Sharpies or
Sharpies.
whatever. Okay. Got that. There you go.
Okay, one's for Mary Ellen and Joe. One's for Russ and Carol. I'm gonna get a tired.
All right.
Kind of tricky. You have to put your foot on the bottom of the very back. There you go. Thank you. Yep. He's a busy guy.
Skill that never goes away, right?
Okay, we'll sell it. I was going to see if that
Joe and Mary Ellen.
If you do it for the legs, if you do it for the legs, if you do it this way, this way,
And then lift up, and they're super easy to do. If you don't know the trick. Yeah.
designed from the bottom up.
Appreciate that.
This is let me show you. It's a bottom up chair. Ready? Like this. You just turn it over and fold it.
Why don't you do it one more time?
Remember playing those old the accordions?
I wanted to let you know that we have various stacks of books for the family, for the Stevens family, and I don't know if we were waiting for an address or, but we have them all in envelopes ready to send. So
They've never been sent.
No, so that was one of the reasons I wanted to touch base with you to see what we could help with that.
I thought Murray's secretary sent it.
Okay, well let me double check my emails and things like
I need to
that.
talk to her tomorrow.
Okay.
Jamie.
Okay.
Got to know her pretty well.
Okay.
The legacy book.
Yeah.
We both, so Murray wants this, and I can just hear her. She's worked with it for 40 years.
Yeah,
so
she knows. Yeah.
You know, I can just hear her eyes.
Yeah, but I thought just to make sure they got it in the hands before we lost touch with any of them. But yeah, you can just go through me, and then I'll make sure if they get sent.
Write myself a note, and I should remember this. I need to talk to her on this.
And I can email you too when I at work tomorrow.
Well, either way,
Okay.
I was pretty sure that Jamie had
Okay.
sent those out.
Okay.
Because I think it was the list that she had.
Yeah, and then anyway, regardless, I thought, well, I'll double check with you because it would be nice, make sure it stays in the family and they get their.
I wanted to tell Jeff for various reasons, we're just now really getting into marketing this.
Sure.
I mean, a lot of it was, I didn't do much until fall. Nobody, in summer, nobody's thinking.
Yeah. Or if they just want more books, we'll send them again. I mean, why not? If they wanted to give them to grandkids or what have you. So.
I will.
Okay.
I will ask her. I'm pretty sure they did that because I think I supplied.
Okay, that sounds great. It was a lovely talk. Yeah, it was. No, it's us Iowa Staters.
Well, the first time I did it, I can't stuck here.
Yeah.
If I can move
You
around.
gotta give me a book. We gotta sign one here. We'll get one.
Yeah, I'll let you get to your
If I can move around, when I got to stand there,
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's good to see you. We'll talk soon.
all right, bye-bye.
That's right. Saying you're signing on your break. I ended up buying one, so I don't know.
You did buy one?
Not yet. I will.
You trusting for me to sign one?
Oh, I think he'll try. Yeah,
We'll get security if not, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's Steve, right?
Steve.
That's right. It's pro-am golfing. I said now you got time you can go golfing with us.
I could probably go. No, I can't Friday. I can maybe go tomorrow afternoon.
We're looking at. We got Italians.
No.
So now
Oh, where was it?
She plays down in Giants.
on Amazon. And Dad's going,
Anne's got an Ian.
now I'm the marketing director. I only write. So now he's got to figure out that.
Yeah, that's what's
Well, no,
keeping us
Mary's
busy.
secretary.
I just retired.
Oh, that's good.
So, keeping us busy with the grandkids. We're trying to get at least one of the faraway kids, and then the Amber's kids, and then two.
How long was it from start to finish? The whole thing, from starting the research to finish. I know you did.
We met like the week of Monday of the week of Thanksgiving to start it. And I think they were printed
I mean, it's like,
13 months later.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good turnaround.
there's good people.
Yeah.
As far as I know, she's not much about it.
There we go.
Let's put the date on there. What is today? Today is the 22nd.
Sister's husband, who is on to this, is a big stick.
That's the way.
There we go.
Executive.
They're sure you paid for it.
You didn't put in there that all the proceeds from this book will be going to.
All the proceeds go back to Iowa State.
No, this side of it. I'm saying not. No.
I mean, this guy doesn't want any.
Well,
you know, semantic books,
Like in the last couple months.
especially with he was looking for it to be just information for him on the university probably.
Who's that?
Weiss.
Oh, Wise. He wanted them to do something. He wanted to keep the legacy of C.Y. Stevens.
Sure.
And so, so he,
She started as a
that's why he wanted it. He's got deep, deep pockets. So he paid for most of it. Although the college did a little bit. So really any proceeds will go back to the college in some shape or form.
Oh, that's fine.
Like that. I've been because Diane asked me, said, "Are you going to charge Murray for this time?" No, I could. But he's
on Rural Hay.
That's super nice. I'm sure he's got a book already, right?
yes, he has. He probably has.
Number one of the number?
He probably has 1,000 of them at home. He's given out a lot to his friends and stuff.
Next time I come to your place, Megan wants one for each of the kids, just for keepsake. So someday they can.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. We can.
or we can purchase them.
Oh, Valley of Fire?
No.
Oh, sure.
Oh, and you should have announced that you're going to be at Isaac Walton next week.
Oh, that's right. They're doing it. Yeah. Oh, it's that one now. It sounds like it's almost like a Rotary type thing where they have regular
Yeah, they have regular meetings.
meetings. So
And
so I haven't really done anything on
this would be fun.
publicizing it, you know.
Yeah, no, they do all that.
So
Yeah.
Pizza?
I should bring
I would love to, but I gotta get
okay.
Yeah.
to bed.
Yeah.
Liam had soccer at 9:30.
And he'll bring these.
Parental
Okay,
responsibility.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to.
I can
and you
bring
might
some more.
want to bring a few.
Molly has the
Yeah.
one north.
Okay, are we leaving those?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Leave these here.
Yeah.
Take those.
It's tempting, but I better not.
Are there any up on your?
There should be 3.
Okay, I want to have her see Murray. Although he's back this weekend, you know,
And
he
it's
goes
basically
to
about,
Florida in the winter.
not a game, but, well, yeah, kind of a game. Pony Boy versus some of his friends, back and forth. It really appeals to.
But I want, I'm letting you know that
They really like it.
this is getting out.
The West Side Story.
It's different because, you know, we'll come to these and it'll be somebody who's done.
Dan, I think it'd be easier if you just swing around the books you've not read.
Investment.
I haven't,
You know, I was
I always tell you, I have a terrible
and
memory.
my other 2 books was the old form.
Recalling a lot of the details. Now, Steve is very good at recalling
Advanced, and
details.
then
I mean, you could ask him,
still get
can't you, Mike?
25 years.
Oh, yeah.
Details. I mean, I can give you the gist of
Because
something,
my first 2 books
but
were
after a
perfection.
couple weeks, I have a
2
hard
of them
time
together
recalling.
sold
So what I read,
I think just over 20,000 books. It's about 25 years, but they marketed them at schools and libraries.
Yeah, but that was the old
That was
style
the old
business.
yeah.
Things aren't like
I would
that
love to,
anymore.
I don't have a name like John Grisham.
Has a new book out.
Yeah,
Again.
I know. I got kind of spoiled on because I really like those early ones and the later ones.
Yeah, I like the early ones better.
Is Kaylee and Mallory?
Yeah,
But I think everybody has had a.
Yeah, no.
My theory is like the first 1 or 2, they percolate in their mind for years and it just flows. Then the others is
Except Stephen King, he just keeps cranking them out. And you know what? They're still great.
he
I don't know if I'd say.
Diana and I took my wife Diana. She
She has switched. I'm not sure what she
taught
switched.
literature like in 6th grade. And we said, what would you do if you had him in class? I mean, you know, how did you spend your summer? And you know, or, you know, give us a tell us a fictional story in your summer. And, you know, think what his is going to be. It's going to be. I mean, he might get kicked out of school.
probably would.
Going down.
Probably would.
Talking about it.
I know, she's in her
Well,
junior meeting.
I really appreciate this.
Oh, you bet.
You know, this
Thanks for
was-
coming.
well,
Yeah.
I was hoping we wouldn't get family.
I know.
My experiences
She's up and down.
in October and November, the first bad night.
Nobody goes out.
You can have
She's
so
got
many
He's got
January, February, they go out.
Everybody goes out. Yeah.
I've heard that from other people.
Well, last night was with all that wind and cold and yeah, and I don't think anybody had the furnace on yet. And yeah, I sat under a blanket,
Well, we turned our,
TV, and was glad to stay home.
we turned ours on, I think, the day before.
Yeah, I haven't turned mine on yet. I have a little electric heater.
Well, we have a fireplace.
And so I just, so far I get by with that.
We have a lot of windows. We're in the country. It's not a very big house, but a lot of windows. When it's windy, we feel it. Yeah, and it's a newer house. It's just
Yeah,
gonna be.
the house gets cold.
This makes me worry.
Well, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
So I think actually, I was really happy with it. I mean, I've only done it. Okay, 'cause
That was good. And I did go back and forth. Yeah, it worked.
I do better when I can just kind of not think about where I have to stand.
Yeah,
I just do it.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that microphone.
Oh, no.
You could have tested it and stuff, but anyway, it all worked out.
Well, thank you, Jan.
You bet.
I'll send that ISBN thing. I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Okay.
That was totally on me for forgetting to assign it.
Okay.
All the way at the bottom. You have David, you had David Sedaris?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've seen him before. Oh, you're on.
You just followed right after.
Right after David Sedaris.
Yeah.
Did we need to send a signed copy
Yeah, we will.
of the consignment?
Did you fill out a do I have a consignment form from you? Do you know? I had them fill it out that day.
You did.
I thought I did too.
Yeah, but you had to add the quantity, right?
Oh, no, we already did that. We did that. It is.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I have the inventory.
when he leaves, he can
To sign that, show that we now have,
those books.
we did that. I had them signed.
Okay.
You were trying to
And
turn
did you
on
give
and
him,
off.
Did you give him a copy of it? That's what I'm saying.
No, I didn't give you a
That's
copy
what I'm
of it.
saying.
Well, remember, these are Murray's books. I don't really care.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. But usually, I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
yes,
that
I
way
know.
we know, and the author knows what we have agreed that we have these in stock.
okay.
Now, did you get the
Yes.
author
I
thing, the
don't
frame?
have that stuff.
Did you get that picture thing?
I think I actually have.
Do you have one of those? I was just saying, she framed that, set it up at home, you know?
He doesn't
So
care.
the cats
Okay.
can look at it.
See,
I
the
got
signs
nothing.
are
Actually,
here.
I
Yes.
actually have a bigger
If
one.
you would like to take a picture of this with your phone to prove you have it.
There you go.
She said his.
Oh, and Maureen's face too, to show that she gave it to you.
Okay, now it's a new phone, so I'm still figuring it out.
New phone, who dis? Okay.
Ackerman, yeah.
All right,
Okay,
there
there
we
you
go.
go.
There we go. That'll work.
Oh, he was hilarious. Yeah.
Make it
Sorry to be
official.
so.
No, it's okay. You were asking all
Well,
the questions.
I
You
mean,
were
the whole,
leading up.
the whole, here, I
How bad is this picture?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's.
See, I keep hitting the wrong buttons. 'Cause
There you go. That
Oh,
looks
what a
good.
fabulous
It's wonderful.
Oh,
All right.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think when they agreed to this, I don't remember.
Yes, I heard about
I mean, there was no scope. I got no.
Oh, really?
Well, they
Spend this amount
respect
of
your
money.
artistic vision.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well,
And
thank you.
good luck next week.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
glad that all worked
Was
out.
I supposed to bring anything or am I done?
No, I think.
Yeah, because we're
Very good.
We're keeping the books for another event. I don't know what the event is.
It's at Isaac Walton. Next Tuesday.
Still got 20 pieces. Well, no. Well, that one is, I think it's gonna be, start delivery somewhere in the first week of November. But there's still other things we're trying to, another one's, what I wanted to do is get, I wanted to get a picture of it. I also show Murray.
Oops, there you go.
Oh, there they are. And there's a clippy here. Is this your clippy for something? Do you use this clippy for something?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because this has got hooks, not clippies.
I never sit on
Get giant sheet.
Get another like a giant